Hi everyone, it's John. It's another Tuesday, so I don't have actually a review for you today. Judging from the last time I looked, which was just a few minutes ago, on my list of videos, it's been 5 months since I showed you any new books. So I wanted to do that today instead, and also tell you a little funny story about becoming a member of my somewhat local library. Um, Let me start out with that first. So, ever since I moved back to this area, which is a semi-rural area, approximately halfway between San Antonio and Austin, there is a local library that we have that's very small and not terribly impressive in any interesting ways as far as their collection is concerned. About 8 minutes drive away from me, and I've been a member of that ever since I moved here. Not long after I moved here, I tried to become a member of the library that's about 30 minutes away, and it is in a town which is a bit larger than the one I'm currently in. And even though my mailing address at my house actually has the name of that town in it, I could not become a member of the library when I tried in, I want to say 2014 or late 2013. Just by chance, I happened to be rummaging around on the internet with things to do in the local area, noticed that they were having a Friends of the Library sale, and posted a question to that library if by any chance if I were to ask to become a member again, if I would be able to. And someone chimed in, I don't know if it was a librarian there or just another Facebook user, and said, actually last year in 2018, the membership rules for the library had changed. And as long as you have the name of that town's library in your personal address, which I do, like I just said, you can become a member of the library free of charge. So, after having driven by that library that is 20 or 30 minutes away hundreds of times, because I'm always in that little town, I'm finally a member of it. And now that library actually is nice. It's nothing like you would see in a big city, but it more than suits my personal needs and even supplements, the ridiculous number of books that I have at home. So, long story short, I ended up buying 4 books from not the library book sale. That's actually the second week in October, and I'll show you what I get there too when I do get them. But they have a little annex, I guess you could call it, at the library, which is where they sell some things that they have pulled out of circulation. I don't know why they've pulled some of these things out of circulation based on their condition. They're in wonderful condition. Maybe they don't get read terribly often, which is a shame. But I want to show you those 4 things, and then the first time you go, you're limited to 3 items. So I also checked out 3 books from the library. First, I want to show you the 4 that I bought in the sort of annex section. The first is a volume of mostly, I guess you would call the lesser-known works of Thoreau. Of course, there is Walden, but this has A Week on the Concord and Merrimack Rivers, in addition to the Maine Woods and Cape Cod. Each of those works are, pretty large. It's not like A Week, the Maine Woods, and Cape Cod are essays or anything. These are both book-long. These are all book-long works. these don't really look like it since the kind of paper they use is that sort of tissue paper, but this volume is actually 1,100 pages long. So the only Thoreau I've ever had a chance to read was Walden in college when I took a class on 19th century English, 19th century American literature. And I think I read bits and pieces of, Civil Disobedience, which, interestingly enough, is not even in here. But this is a lot of his other stuff that we're not so familiar with in one book. By the way, these volumes, for those of, I have to brag about this because it just seems like such a steal. These things are $40 from the publisher, and just completely, I don't know if you can see that, no dog marking, no writing, no bent edges, nothing like that. But I got it for $3. So I'll take that any day of the week. Next up is a literary biography. I just happened to see the spine, and it jumped out at me. Of course, I just saw Byron, and that sort of did it. This is Byron, the Flawed Angel, by, I did not recognize the person's name, Phyllis Grosskirth. It seems to have a pretty respectable reception on Goodreads, whose opinions, there are a few dozen people on there whose opinions I really respect. And I saw some opinions from a few of those people, and just decided, again, hardbacks there, $3. This is brand new. Basically all I know about Byron is, that he died in fighting for Greek independence. I mean, I think everyone knows that about Byron, but not much else in the context of his life and work. So I thought that would be interesting too. This is a work by someone I don't have anything else by, which is kind of rare because I own at least one thing by pretty much everyone I'm interested in reading. And if this is, I don't remember if this is his early book. This might be the last book that he published. 1994. This is William Gaddis's A Frolic of His Own. It's by the same guy who wrote Carpenter's Gothic and The Recognitions, his two big books of the 50s. I know The Recognitions is from the 50s, I believe, and Carpenter's Gothic is later, I think. But this is one of his lesser known works, a novel. Again, very much a product of his later years. So interested to see how this looks. I have not read either. I should be more specific. I haven't read anything by William Gaddis, but I know the place that he holds in American letters, so that obviously makes me interested in wanting to read him. And last but not least, from the purchased section, a group of books is the Forsyte Saga by Nobel Prize laureate John Galsworthy. This I actually had a copy of. It was another edition. It's the Wordsworth Classics. I don't know if you're familiar with those. They're blue, and I don't think they're printed on as good a paper as these Oxford World Classics are. It kind of seems like they're printed on almost newsprint. And to be frank, these seem very much the same way. They just seem more sturdy. So, and I also thought that my previous copy of the Forsyte Saga was abridged. It turns out it wasn't. this also appears to be unabridged, so I'm glad for that. But these red and sort of off-white beige, I don't know, they just do more aesthetically for me. I'm not very much of a books as objects or aesthetic objects sort of person, but I will drop, by the way, paperbacks there are $1.50, $1.50. I will drop $1.50 to get a preferred version of a book. Alright, so that's what I bought. As far as what I checked out, unfortunately, we're limited to 3 things. However, the next time I go, the limit is actually 50 things. I'll never, ever show you that many things at a book haul. You're welcome. I might show you 6 or 8, but I got 3. I maxed out my books. Actually, you could get 3 of anything: books, DVDs, whatever, CDs. The first of which, some of these I might have in my permanent library, but they're in boxes somewhere, either in my shed or my living room, and I don't really want to fumble through 50-pound boxes just to go dig these up. So I saw these really wonderful Everyman. This is, Everyman's library editions, just sitting around on sort of the shelves that they have right as you come in. And these stick out to me like sore thumbs, like I'm sure they do many readers. This happens to be Oh Pioneers by Willa Cather, someone who I own several books by but have never read. And I think I have Oh Pioneers in one of those many, 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 many dozens of boxes that I have packed away, both in my living room and in my shed. But, like I said, don't care to dig through it, so now that I have a library, I'll probably just be using it to read many books that I actually already own, but are much more conveniently placed for me. So here's one of them. This is actually the first in a trilogy, but I think for many people can sort of stand alone as a book all of its own. Secondly, E.M. Forster's A Passage to India. I think the only other thing I've ever read by Forster was Howard's End, which I read so long ago that I didn't really remember being impressed by it, but I think I read it almost 20 years ago, which was much too early to read it intelligently, I think. I think I may very well have been in high school, so I'm going to give him another try. And last but not least is another writer I've never read, but he's not a novelist. He's a somewhat popular sort of science writer whose work borders the intersections of psychology and philosophy and sometimes politics. This is certainly one that includes politics, as you can tell from the name. This is Jonathan Haidt's The Righteous Mind: Why Good People Are Divided by Politics and Religion. It very much seems like this could be in the hands of someone not as talented as Jonathan Haidt, just a very sort of superficial, silly analysis of why we're so divided as a nation when it comes to topics in religion and politics. But I've heard that he's actually a pretty good thinker and rigorous with some interesting and unique ideas. We'll see if that's actually the case. As you know, every single book that I read and complete, I come back and report to you on. And this will be no different if I actually do end up completing it before I have to turn it back in. I plan to at least get to the other 2. We'll see if I finish this. Interestingly enough, when I went into the annex where they were selling the books, I went there after I checked these out. and noticed a copy for sale, a hardcover copy, $3, and ended up not buying it because I thought that, of course, 3 weeks and you get one renewal. In 6 weeks, I can certainly read this along with all of the other things I was planning on reading, and hopefully I will be able to. But of course, knowing me, I won't be able to, and then when I go and look again, the copy in the bookstore will be gone. So, Murphy's Law, right? So that is my, I guess, half book haul and half library things that I have today to show you for September 24th, 2019. I hope that you found something interesting in there. If anything looks good, if you have any questions about anything, or if you've read anything that you'd like me to talk about or share opinions about, whatever, say hi, drop a comment in the notes, and I will respond. And I will see you next week. Bye, everyone.